light. And it's even becoming a fad in many places, this lifestyle that essentially is conducive for human longevity, regeneration, and so many things. So let's get started. Without further ado, I'm just going to check in one more time on the questions thing. Can you guys all hear me clearly? Just give me a big fat yes, and I will move forward. Sometimes if I speak a little bit slower, it may be more clear. Yes, 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 yes. Yeses all around. 100 yeses all at once. Thank you guys so much. Cool. So moving forward, talking about the modern discoveries of what has been coined the phrase by science as rejuvenescence. And I find it interesting that even within the modern discoveries, they have this image of this woman, and the left side of her face, you can see the wrinkles that show up and the darkness around her eyes and the wrinkles and just the droopiness and tiredness. And this is the process that we're all going through. A lot of people say, oh, well, I'm just getting wrinkles and bags under my eyes and stuff because I'm getting old. That's complete nonsense. That is complete nonsense. I know people that are in their 60s and 70s, even late 70s. A woman by the name of Mimi Kirk in her late 70s, no plastic surgery, eating fresh out of her garden, eating whole foods, and living in tune with nature, that doesn't have the wrinkles, doesn't have the lines that even women in their 40s have. And why is that? It's because her internal organs are healthy. And learning from ancient Egypt, I've learned a process called glyphics, face glyphics, and I know that the entire body is a reflex organism. So when I look in someone's eyes, before I even look into the iris or the whites of their eyes, I can see around their eyes the state of their kidneys. I can see the state of their adrenal glands. I can see their fatigue. I can see how they've damaged or maybe eaten too much protein, or they don't drink enough water, or they've been drinking very sugary types of drinks. I can see it all just by looking around their eyes. I can see the state of their digestive system by looking next to the nose and seeing how deep the grooves are. I can see on their forehead what's going on with the urinary system, the digestive system. I can see what's happening with the liver. I can see what's going on with their heart by looking at their nose. I can see specifically the large intestine and small intestine from the lips. I can see parasites. I can see the reproductive system. I can see the state of the stomach on the cheeks. I can see the lungs. Everything shows up on the face. And some people are very blessed, especially when they're younger, that this stuff doesn't appear on their face. But you can see the stresses that are happening in those people's lives as well by looking a little closer into the eyes. And when you look into the whites of the eyes, which are called the sclera, there's an exact science called sclerology, which has been rediscovered by the Nez Perce Native American tribes of Idaho in northern America. And doctors flocked to these Nez Perce Indian tribes because they realized they were identifying stress and conditions and disease simply by looking in the eyes. And then there's been a rediscovery of this information going back to ancient documents of China. And then you look back into ancient Egypt, and guess what? The ancient Egyptians were using the same method of diagnosing conditions, or really just identifying stresses, blockages, toxicities, and even emotional, energetic imbalances as well. So, and then when you take these records of ancient China and put them together with the Nez Perce Native Americans of Idaho and even the ancient Egyptian stuff, there's an 80 to 90% correlation, meaning 80 to 90% of what these different cultures from around the world developed based on their own knowledge and understanding and time and distance of applying these principles, they were developing the same thing. It's absolutely brilliant. It's just like in today's day and age, we have the ability to plug in a computer into the car, and it'll give you a readout right away and say, oh, there's something wrong with the spark plugs, or there's a misfiring over here, or your spark plug's not working, or the battery has an issue, or it'll give you a readout. Back in the day when something broke down, the mechanic had to go in and look physically for what was going on, which you don't want to do with a human, cut them open to see what's going on. So the eyes are like that same thing. It's like plugging in a computer and I can just open up your eyes and shine a little flashlight in there or take a photograph. And there's a complete readout of a blocked digestive system, kidney issues, adrenal fatigue, thyroid problems, all kinds of issues show up. And the cool thing about this is these conditions, these blockages, these toxicities will show up years, potentially years or even months before you even manifest any symptoms. So you can get on top of the things that you're potentially doing wrong before it ever becomes an issue. And for me, that's brilliant. And when people are dealing with chronic conditions, you open your eyes and it's just, it's like a freaking light going off on the dashboard like, hello, really shining brightly saying you need to change something. So I just wanted to mention that because through these processes of fasting and doing other things, it's not just physical. There's definitely some emotional, mental, other things going on as well. And I think every major proponent of individuals in the past that were really focused on healing and longevity and getting results started to discover that there's definitely some underlying emotional things that are happening as well. So working with an individual from a holistic perspective is absolutely crucial when it comes to healing and regenerating the human body. And I find that when people do a colon cleanse, guess what? Their emotional shit comes out too. Not only your physical plaque and parasites and other shit that comes out of people, typically after 3 or 4 colon cleanses, maybe over a 4 to 6 month period, but the emotional stuff comes out too. And this is why fasting is so profound, is because when you fast, you're not able to bury your emotional stuff. You're not able to mask it. You're not able to drug yourself consistently with Big Macs and hot dogs or whatever, with these foods that are suppressing a lot of times the emotion that we need to allow to come out. So without further ado, I'm just going to get started into the science. This is from the University of Chicago, Whole Biological Labs. There is one quality of fasting which is genuinely awesome and even miraculous, and yet is truly natural to life. This is the ability of living things, including humans, to regain youthfulness. This physiological scientific method is called rejuvenescence. And this is scientific research. This is universities of Chicago, Southern California, and places that have been doing this for some 30 years. Research on fasting with animals, microorganisms, humans of all kinds. And this is what they're saying. In some cases, certain creatures that normally live and die in a few weeks have been kept alive for several years. Now think about that. An animal that would normally live and die in a few weeks is being kept alive for years with fasting. What would that mean for humans? And obviously it doesn't apply the same for humans, but there are some similarities. Humans can benefit from the same physiological characteristic present in his tissues. At the Department of Physiology at the University of Chicago, Dr. Carlson and Professor Kuhn fasted a 40-year-old man for 2 weeks, discovering his cellular physiology was that of a 17-year-old. They see this in the actual cell. These benefits are acquired by ridding the cells of toxic metabolic accumulants. One of the characteristic features of youthfulness is seen in the cell-to-nucleus ratio. Youthful cells have a preponderance of nucleus material, while old and senile cells have a preponderance of cellular material. Meaning, if you're 40 or 50 or 60 or 70, your cellular material becomes much greater than that of the nucleus material. And when you fast, it reverts it back to its original stasis. Now, this is 2 weeks of a complete fast. That's like fasting on water for 14 days. But what that did is literally, in my opinion, took 14 years. If you go back to the ancient text and look at what they were saying, 1 day of a water fast equates to 1 year of physical damage and things that we've been doing to our bodies. And I can go deeper into this later. how when, at my retreats with 16 people fasting, somebody does fantastic, and on day 7 they lose their shit, and they're just emotional, and they're like dying on the ground and having stuff happen. And every single time, and this happens in hundreds of cases, every single time when I ask that person what happened to them 7 years ago, they nail it. They're like, oh my God, that's exactly what this is. I'm feeling the emotions of when my father died. And everything that I did, I got sick, I made myself sick, I was emotional wreck, I was, eating crap foods to try to suppress it, yada, yada, yada. And it's so amazing to see this process happen and know that we're healing our physical bodies, but we are also removing that emotional storage, that emotional baggage. I look at people, and a lot of time I can see the baggage that they're holding on to. And that's a lot of times the emotional stuff that needs to be released. The traumas and things that have happened to us during our lives are stored within us. And then everything we do is based on that trauma being triggered in different ways. And when we clear that past trauma through this process, and there are other processes that can assist as well, many of which are fantastic, then you move forward in life from that point on as more of who you truly are. More of that divine childlike essence is shining forth, and you will do so much more in the world coming from that true space. I'm talking about even in your business, your relationships, everything you do will be so much more powerful. It's amazing. And here's the science behind other things. Fasting, healing, and regeneration. Old age is characterized by a slowing down of the metabolic rate. This decrease may be permanently increased by the process of fasting, according to experiments conducted at the Whole Biological Labs at the University of Chicago. These experiments were conducted on both dogs and humans for extended periods of time. The results observed were that in fast of 30 to 40 days, a 5 to 6% increase of the metabolic rate was observed. Now, the thing you got to understand here, there's so many people that you talk about fasting, they're just like, oh, that destroys your metabolic, system. It destroys your metabolism. Oh, it's not good for you. Oh, it's unhealthy. Oh, you could die. Oh, you're going to be fatter afterwards. And people have all these opinions about fasting. And look, I would say that, yeah, when you do a fast, it's not ideal to go back and eat Big Macs and hot dogs and do the same thing you were doing that got you sick in the first place. But you would actually be better off doing the fast by clearing a lot of that excess proteinaceous growth in your body in the form of tumors and cysts and polyps and moles and all of these things. It's like cleaning the filters and starting over. But if you're going to do a fast, and you're going to go into that and raise your vibration and clean everything out, it would probably be smart to adjust your lifestyle afterwards. And that's really where I focus. So if you understand metabolism, you'll find that through science, they say when we turn about 30 years old, 35 years old, our natural base metabolism will start to decrease. And this is actually what causes aging and the shrinking of telomeres, and so many things. And this decrease might only be like 1% every 2, 3, or 5 years. So it's not a lot, but it's just slightly declining over time and distance. So the thing you got to understand is that when you do 30 to 40 days on a fast, which I'm not recommending anybody goes and does this on their own because you could die. There's a potential if you're not supported, you haven't prepared yourself properly, things haven't gone correctly, I really believe these extended fasts need to be facilitated. And some people do these extended fasts and do absolutely fantastic. And some people do these fasts and, in my opinion, don't really get what they could have gotten if they had done it in a facilitated or really planned it in a certain way. But to get back to this, 5 to 6% in an increase in the metabolic rate might even equate to 20, 30, or 40 years of aging, depending on the individual doing it. If someone's 60, 70 years old and they do a 30 to 40 day fast, their cellular physiology reverses. Their metabolism kick back up, which means their body then has the ability to replace and rejuvenate like it did back when it was 30. So absolutely phenomenal science that's coming out about this stuff. Autolysis of tumors. Another amazing characteristic of fasting is the principle of autolysis. This is the ability of the organism to selectively self-digest and remove unwanted material and accumulations from within the body without touching vital structures. This is a normal quality of designed physiology. In fasting, this quality of life becomes greatly enhanced so that many tumors, cysts, abscesses, abnormal accumulations, fatty deposits, etc. may be completely or largely absorbed. So, in simple terms, our body requires essential amino acids and proteins for metabolism to continue to protect our organs and our muscles. So when you go on a water fast, your body still needs that stuff, and it will go and literally deconstruct tumors and cysts and polyps and all the excess protein you guys have been eating for 20, 30 years that's accumulated in different places, and you got moles and skin tags and marks on your body and growths and shit going on. Even the fungus and the viruses that exist within the body are deconstructed and used to build lean muscle and to replace everything inside your body, the organs, tissues, and everything. And I know a lot of you probably aren't really understanding what I'm saying, but your body has the ability, a virus, for example, is a construct of protein. And when we water fast, our body deconstructs that and uses that like building blocks. So you mean to tell me that you can destroy viruses and use that for lean muscle mass? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying, and there's science to back this up. Prolonged fasting also lowers the levels of IGF-1, which is a growth factor in the liver that has been linked to aging, tumor progression, and cancer risk. And IGF-1 is boosted by the level of animal protein people are eating. And if you look into T. Colin Campbell, you look into Cornell University and the China study, the largest study ever done on human nutrition, you'll start to see all of their research showing that if you eat more than 10% of your caloric intake from an animal-based protein, that's what fuels the fire for cancer. And that fuel is in the process of IGF-1 being boosted massively. So most people in the Western world are running around with high levels of IGF-1, which is a growth factor that causes you to age quicker and causes you to grow tumors and cancer. And this is probably the reason why 1 in 2 people, according to the American Cancer Society, will be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. So if you want to prevent cancer and you even want to reverse it, in my opinion, it comes down to having this IGF-1. And if there's a documentary, I definitely recommend watching it. It's called Eat, Fast, and Live Longer. It's about 30 to 45 minutes. Dr. Michael Mosley did a documentary of just intermittent fasting, which is maybe 1 day a week, and other ways of fasting that work more for people. And just 1 day a week halves the level of IGF-1 and for a prolonged period of time. So even just 1 day a week does profound things within your body that can prevent, the potential for cancer and other things. So moving on. Fasting triggers stem cell regeneration of damaged old immune system. Without going into this too much, you can read the articles yourself from the University of Southern California and see what's happening. They say that 3 days of a fast, your body will deconstruct all the old worn out immune system, all the old white blood cells that have been, that need to retire from the military. They're all retired, and you build an entirely new, amazing immune system within 3 days. Not only that, during each cycle of fasting, this depletion of white blood cells induces changes that trigger stem cell-based regeneration of a new immune system. In particular, prolonged fasting reduces the enzyme pKa, an effect previously discovered by Longo's team to extend longevity in simple organisms and linked to other research for the regulation of stem cells, self-renewal, and pluripotency. So just to give you guys the simplified terms, when you do a fast consisting of 2 to 3 days, your body produces embryonic style stem cells. Stem cells that have what's called pluripotency, which means they have the ability to take the place of any damaged or worn out tissues within your body. What does that mean? If you have brain damage, if you have a heart problem, a liver issue, kidney problem, anything in your body that's either damaged or worn out or old, or even weak due to genetic inheritance, stem cells will have the ability to replace those weakened cells and regenerate those organs. And the reason, stem cell technology is one of the most profound things discovered, but they're taking stem cells from babies, from placentas, from all these things, and then they inject it into people, but they have to poison you first to literally stop the enzyme pKa in the immune system from fighting the stem cells coming in. So it's this process of, yes, giving you stem cells which regenerate your body, but they're also poisoning you and doing all these other things to try to get it to work. But when you fast, your body does this naturally. You don't have to spend $20, $30, $50,000 and poison yourself and go through this whole process. All you need to do is fast. And your body regenerates itself. All these systems and things that are being discovered happen naturally. All right, so that's just a little bit of the science. Now I want to get into a little bit of the history and mystery around fasting. The word fast comes from the Middle English word fasten, and it means to hold strong or strengthen, to observe or to abstain from food. So the same word means to strengthen, and it also means to abstain from food. Wait a second, you mean to not eat food is also strengthening? And that's exactly what I'm saying. Our whole indoctrination and belief system around caloric intake and building muscle and all these things is completely flawed, and I will prove it. The first records of human fasting go back to the remedies of disease in ancient Egypt and Greece. Hippocrates prescribed fasting during the critical periods of disease. Hippocrates laid the foundation for modern medicine and was a major proponent for fasting. Plutarch said, instead of using medicine, it's better to fast a day. During the 16th century, the renowned Swiss physician Paracelsus claimed that fasting is the greatest remedy. I believe this wholly and truly. And when you get sick, you get a fever, what happens? You don't want to eat. And people try to shove, bone broth down you and get you to have soups and get you to eat vegetables and, your chicken soup, to build your strength. Completely wrong. In fact, Hippocrates said to eat while you're sick is to feed your sickness. And I agree with that completely as well. To fast when you're sick is to reverse the condition and allow your body the space to heal itself. Both Plato and Socrates are said to have fasted 10 days at a time to attain mental and physical efficiency. And we hear these statements, but you won't actually ever know anything about it unless you do it yourself. And you know what? The first time you do it, you're probably so toxic, you'll feel like you're going to die in the first day, and you'll be turned off it for the rest of your life. And this is why I set up programs to facilitate fasting, to bring about an environment that's conducive. And all of a sudden, 30, 60, 100 people come together and do a fast together, and they have energy the whole time. We're going off on adventures, we're whitewater rafting, we're snorkeling, we're doing different things. At the end of 7 days, people are like, holy shit, I can't believe I just didn't eat food for 7 days. And they have a beautiful vacation and go home healed, rather than going on vacation and coming home sick, because that's typically what happens on vacations. Pythagoras was known to have fasted 40 days and 40 nights before his examination at Alexandria. And he laid the foundation for geometry and mathematics and was known as the greatest scholar of the West. And he actually traveled to Egypt and stayed for 22 years after being denied and forced to go fast in order to become a part of the Egyptian mystery schools. And these are just some of the individuals here that have fasted. Aristotle, Muhammad, Socrates, Plato, Paracelsus, Gandhi, Moses, Christ, Buddha, people that are talked about to have fasted. As it says in the Bible that Christ fasted 40 days and 40 nights and then did very specific things. And, look, some people may be offended by this. I don't really care. I'm just talking about history. And when you really look into the history, some of the most profound minds and scholars were people who were proponents for fasting and even proponents for more of a plant-based lifestyle. Even Leonardo da Vinci has many sayings, brilliant people. And of course, the most brilliant people on this picture, there at the bottom left, those guys, they're the pioneers of the future. All right, a little bit of ego there. Just messing with you. Had to throw myself in there, right? And the good old cowboy Don Tolman. Hey, whole food medicine man. Love you, Papa. So, if we go back to the ancients, you'll also find a time of these people called the Essenes. There's a bread you can go and buy. You go down to a health food shop, especially in Australia, many different countries. You can buy sprouted grain bread. I believe sprouted grain bread is one of the healthiest foods for human constitution. I believe that wheat in general and grains are some of the most powerful foods for building strength, for cleaning the digestive system, for doing so many things. But one of the most healthy foods on the planet has been so bastardized, mainly because they spray pesticides, aluminum, fluoride, and other means on grains before they store them to prevent weevils from eating them. And then they'll take those grains that have been stored and give them to countries like Australia. And then all the Australians that eat these grains over time and distance develop conditions based on the heavy metals that are lining your digestive system. And these end up getting into the brain and causing neurodegenerative diseases, autoimmune diseases, all sorts of things. And I'll tell you, I've had people with celiac disease, Crohn's disease, irritable bowel syndrome, dozens and dozens of people with these conditions fast, only eat sprouted grains, and completely heal their condition. And I could send you some information of who these people are. You can talk to them, have a conversation. These people are healing. The Essenes were a group of individuals. This says the first reference is by the Roman writer Pliny the Elder. Pliny relates in a few lines that the Essenes had existed for thousands of generations. So this is a group of people that go back thousands and thousands of years. Unlike Philo, who do not mention any particular geographic location of the Essenes, other than the whole land of Israel, Pliny placed them in En Gedi, next to the Dead Sea. So these guys ended up writing these scrolls called the Dead Sea Scrolls. And the Dead Sea Scrolls, or the Essene Gospel of Peace, which is a book I read when I was about 17 years old, is probably one of the first books I actually read. It's a tiny little book. That's probably why I read it. It'll only take you 2 or 3 days to read the whole thing. Completely changed my life. Now, it's written in a text that is very religious-based, but if you can see through the whole religious kind of jargon, you'll really find some profound wisdom. And I just want to talk about a few little excerpts, and I hope I don't lose you here, because it does have a little bit of a, religious basis. But in part of this text, it says, "Trouble not the work of the angels in your body by eating often. For I tell you truly, he who eats more than twice in the day, in him the work of evil, does in him the work of evil." Now, if you look at the word evil, it's simply live spelled backwards. So in my opinion, anything that's evil is something that's taking away from life force. And if you look around in the world at people that are eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner and all these sorts of, lifeless foods and drinks and, artificial crap, all of those things are taking away from life. And if it's taking away from life, in my opinion, that's evil. And I believe that's how these people spoke thousands and thousands of years ago. You were either about life and vitality and life and growth, or you were about situations of death and decay and taking away from life. And they shared these things in these kinds of terms. And the angels of nature leave his body, and soon evil will take possession of it. Eat only when the sun is highest in the heavens. That means at noon. It says we should not partake of food until the sun is highest in the sky at noon. And again when it is set. So meaning take a meal at noon and take a meal when the sun sets. And you will never see disease. I believe this. I believe if people live this lifestyle, they wouldn't get sick. Because the body has enough time to regenerate itself. It has enough time to detoxify. Even people that are eating not the best foods would be so much healthier if they just ate those crap foods at certain times. Not all day, every day. But imagine taking it to the next level of eating fresh, organic, beautiful fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, grains, tubers, legumes, potatoes, yams, all these things, in season. And you will never see disease, for such finds favor in the eyes of the Lord. And if you will, that the angel of nature rejoice in your body. What it's saying is, if you really want to be optimal and even shun evil far from you, meaning you're really high into life, then sit but once in the day at the table of nature. So it's saying, look, maybe there's a stepping stone of living intermittent fasting, having a few meals a day and living that. I've lived that lifestyle for a few years. And, I break it occasionally, but that's mainly my lifestyle. And then taking it to the next level, what if you just had one meal a day? And then your days will be long upon the earth, for this is pleasing in the eyes of the Lord. Eat always when the table of nature is served before you, meaning the things that are provided in nature are what we should be eating. Go, take a look at what's fresh, what's around you, and that's the foods that we should be eating. And eat always of that which you find upon the table of nature. For I tell you truly, nature knows well what your body needs and when it needs it. Absolutely profound. It's getting back to being in sync with Mother Nature and eating the foods that are in season, which is all set up for a divine purpose. And when we're out of the flow of Mother Nature and what she's providing for these bodies to be optimal, we really don't know what we're doing. But if we look around the world today, you can see the results of nobody following this type of lifestyle. And you can see the results of the people who are. And that's a little bit of what I want to talk about in a minute. This is another excerpt that talks about, intermittent fasting in the place of like eating or having one day a week that you don't eat, which now is one of the major fads that's going on with 5-2 diet and these sorts of things. And this is from, potentially 400 BC, thousands of years ago. This stuff was being taught by these people called the Essenes. And forget not every seventh day is holy and consecrated to God. On 6 days feed your body with the gifts of the earthly mother, but on the seventh day sanctify your body for your heavenly Father. On the seventh day eat not any earthly food, but live only on the words of God, or good, if God offends you. And be all the day with the angels of the Lord in the kingdom of the heavenly Father. And on the seventh day let the angels of good God build the kingdom of the heavens in your body. As you labor for 6 days in the kingdom of the earthly mother, let not food trouble the work of the angels in your body through the seventh day. So basically it's saying, in a biblical fashion, give yourself a break. 1 day a week. And this used to be observed as the Sabbath. And a lot of people fast in religions based on the Sabbath of Christ, for example, saying the day he was born, which was the seventh day, or, the earth was made in 6 days, and then God rested on the seventh day, which would be, Saturday, because the first day was Sunday. Get what I'm saying? So 1 day a week, but what my dad says, and I think it's great, is what day were you born? For example, I was born on a Thursday. So for me, every Thursday I would fast in kind of honoring my day of birth and allowing my body to rest and regenerate itself. And look, I'm teaching this stuff, and I'm still not to this level as well. So don't think by any means that I'm living this completely and fully and, pointing my finger at anybody, because I'm looking to evolve to this as well. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing this stuff, because the more I do take on and start to experience, the more vitality and clarity and strength and energy I'm feeling in my body. And I want for many of us to get together and start to observe these things and do it. And look, there's a group of individuals, and there are a few people on this planet who are actually living this lifestyle. This guy's name is Noon Amen Ra, and you can look him up on Facebook. He's got his own little following of people. I've had long conversations with him on Skype. This guy is phenomenal. He's a scientist and a doctor, and he's been living these principles of fasting on one meal a day based on the research of gerontology. Gerontology is research on human longevity. So he's actually found through all of his research on monkey models, apes, all kinds of animals, autophagy, and all these different systems. This guy's a freaking genius, and he's totally into the science. He's found that if you live this lifestyle of one meal a day, we should be living to 200 years. Like, according to science, we should at least be living to 150 and 60 with vitality. He's saying he'll live to be 200. And look, not only is this guy living this lifestyle, but he's the world record holder for powerlifting. What does that mean? That means this guy's the strongest guy on the planet. Do you get it? The strongest man on the planet is only eating one meal a day. That totally shatters every conception and notion and indoctrination that we've been told since we were kids. If you want to build muscle and you want to be strong, you need to eat 3 to 5 meals a day. You got to be eating all the time. You got to build yourself. You need protein. This guy's completely vegan. He only eats plants, and he only eats those plants once a day. Holy shit. Who else is doing this? This guy's name is Herschel Walker. He was looked at in the United States in high school as being an amazing high school athlete in football. They tried to recruit him out of high school, get him into football. When they did, you can watch videos of this kid. 18 years old, went into the NFL, professional football, and was just running through everyone. You got like 4 or 5 huge guys in football that have been doing this stuff for years, and he's just running straight through them and setting records for the most yards attained, like doing amazing stuff. And again, from a very young age, he naturally ate one meal a day. He's been eating one meal a day his entire life. And in fact, he's completely vegetarian. They ask him what he eats, and he's like, well, I just have, some soup, some lentils, some bread, or, maybe a salad and some soup. And people are just like, what? You eat like some soup and some salad once a day, and you're that massive and you're that strong? This guy, at 48 years old, enters the UFC, MMA Fighting Championship of the world, the strongest guys on the planet that train in mixed martial arts, and he wins. This is completely unheard of. Guys that have been fighting their whole lives and training, by the time they're in their mid-30s to 40 years old, are finished with their career. In a very, very, very rare cases, sometimes into their 40s they still fight, but typically they look like a bunch of idiots at that point because they lose and they're old and worn out. And this guy at 48 years old enters UFC and is winning? Like, it's just, hello? So what I'm saying here is, by the fact that this guy is eating one meal a day, in his 50s, physiologically, he's still in his 20s. And it shows in everything that he does. It shows when he goes and enters a ring and beats somebody up that's 25, 30 years old in their prime, and he's beating him up when he's nearly 50. Shocking. And look, I know that I'm showing, things of people are doing really profound stuff, but you don't have to be a fighter. You don't have to be a world power lifter. By living this lifestyle, you can just experience the energy and the clarity and get the benefits of longevity, and I believe be 10 times more effective in whatever you're doing, whatever your passion is. Because what happens is, when you only eat one meal a day, guess what? You have all this energy and clarity and tons of time. All of a sudden, a day is a really long time, and you can accomplish in my opinion, 3 to 5 times more than what you did before, because you were always thinking about what you're going to have for breakfast, making breakfast, cleaning up from breakfast, then thinking about what you're going to have for lunch, and then having lunch, and then cleaning up from lunch, and by then thinking about what you're going to have for dinner, preparing dinner, and all that stuff. People live their lives essentially just to eat food. And when you observe this lifestyle, you live your life to live your life, and you eat food to support that. And it's phenomenal. Just one more I wanted to throw out there. Ronda Rousey, people that are into the whole MMA and fighting scene, she's listed as being pound for pound the strongest, best fighter in the world in the women's division, and she's also living one meal a day type of lifestyle. So, intermittent fasting, this stuff goes back to ancient Egypt, ancient Essenes, and different cultures. I believe they were very intelligent, very in tune people. All this information is coming back. I highly recommend living a lifestyle of at least, intermittent fasting, 2 meals a day. If you have chronic conditions, if you have bad eyesight, if you have digestive conditions, heart issues, allergies, any of these things, I recommend doing an extended fast. If you've never fasted before, do an extended fast on juices first. I have an online juice fast on tylertolman.com. You can sign up for free. I teach you all of the principles of the basic things that you need to be doing to do a fast successfully. And doing a juice fast, you are completely clearing the toxins from the body and inundating yourself with a massive amount of nutrients. Vitamins, phytonutrients, antioxidants, there's going to be plenty of people out there like, oh, it's too much sugar, you're going to kill yourself. Just do it and see what happens. And I can tell you, there's been thousands and thousands of people with all kinds of different conditions drink juices for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 days and heal themselves and have more energy and vitality than they ever have. So don't buy into the hype of sugar. It's pure vitamins and minerals and nutrients and sun energy in the form that the body requires for optimal energy and cleansing. It's a massive amount of nutrients with a very small amount of the body having to work for it. Whereas most of the time, the body has to do a lot of work to receive a small amount of nutrients. So, like I said, go onto my website, sign up for onlinejuicefast.com, check it out, get on there, do a fast. If you've done juice fasting before, get into like 3 to 5 or 7 days of a water fast. Come to one of my programs. Get on my 13-week Heal Thyself at Home, and truly over 13 weeks, take it step by step and learn these things and really get the profound, deep wisdom and inspiration to radically change your lifestyle. And it's done in a way that's simple. You watch an hour long or a couple hours once a week and make little changes. Because a lot of people need that, a little bit at a time, but at the end of 13 weeks, your entire lifestyle is completely transformed and different. So now I just want to open up to questions and answers. And, I've taken a lot of time here. Obviously, you guys can tell that I'm passionate about fasting. So I don't know how much time I'll have for these questions and answers. But like I said, get on my 13-week course. I do Q&A webinars every week, and some of the most profound stuff comes out during these Q&As. I have a question from Jenny. What does pKa stand for? That's just an enzyme. It's just a scientific term. It probably has a longer name. You can look into it. Look up pKa enzyme, University of Southern California, and you'll probably find more information on it. Please put slide 10 back up for a second, okay? So there's slide 10, if you want to have a look at it. I'll be interested in sprouting grain bread info and people who have healed celiac from eating this. Okay, a good friend of mine, now maybe I misconstrued this. I've had people heal celiac from fasting. And once they do fast, in my opinion, it is the sprouted grains that are the healthiest thing for the digestive system because of the nature of the fibers. And you got to understand that a seed, like a piece of wheat, is very different when you put water on it and allow it to sprout. It becomes alive. There's growth factor. Gluten is essentially just protein, and it's probably the best source of protein for humans for strength. In fact, if you go back to the ancient gladiators, the gladiators were called barley men because they would sprout barley and live on it. Look into it. Type it into a Google search. Gladiators lived on barley. Now, people are idiots and they don't understand the truth, so they say, oh, well, maybe they just ate barley to make themselves fat so that when they were cut by swords, they would have enough subcutaneous fat that they would survive and protect their organs. It's complete nonsense. They ate barley because of the strength and the factors in building muscle and being fertilizer for the human body. But look into it. You can find it yourself. I'm just skipping around and looking at some of these questions here. Oh, wow. I came to see your talk in Perth, and the next day my mom died of cancer. It has only made me want to hold strong to the principles of health and fasting. She knew the truth and about her situation as she was passing. The things she was saying were ancient and profound. Your dad spoke with me from Utah, which was very kind of him. She was my family, so if I can help myself and others by living through this experience and learning as much as I can, that would be amazing. Cool. Thank you for saying that. Not a question, but thank you. Is that water or juice fasting? There are qualities of both, but a true fast is water only, and that's the truth. I call juice fasting actually juice feasting, and I believe you get a lot of the same qualities of healing and regeneration, but there are some things that water fasting will do that juice fasting won't. And it goes in stages. A fresh food diet is a major healing system for the body when we're sick and toxic. So that's a major way of healing. Beyond that would be juice fasting, and beyond that would be water fasting, the highest. And you may want to take it in stages. If someone's really sick and really needing, to change things, maybe go into more of a fresh food, kind of a raw food based diet, at least 80 to 90%, do intermittent fasting, and you'll see massive healing take place. If you go 100% on fruit alone, fruit has amazing capacity to heal the body, to detox the body. And there's so many people against fruit, and people eat fruit that feel sick, and it's because it's causing their bodies to detox. There's mono dieting, which we've had many people go 20, 30 days just on watermelons. In fact, there's a woman doing it right now, posting on Facebook about how amazing she's feeling after 10 days of just being on watermelons. People doing just 20 to 30 days of apples, or even figs and dates. So these things are really profound, but, I'd save that conversation probably for another day. So I have a question. When you compare 1 day of water fasting to reverse 1 year of damage on water, how much does it slow down with your juice fasting and green juices? I find the same thing happens. If I put somebody on a juice fast, it's the same thing. Within 6 days, if they have a major trauma come up, 6 days or 3 days or 10 days, I can still ask the same question and they go right there. I just believe that the depth of the ability to cleanse those things is greater with water, but you still hit it with the juices. And there are many, I have many opinions about even believing juicing is better in many ways. But it depends on the person and the condition and what they're looking to achieve, if that makes sense. My 21-day fast on the 30-day Heal Thyself has had amazing effects. More energy, feel younger, look younger, do not eat as much, and I am nowhere doing what was taught to us by you, Tyler, but that is okay. More and more I believe in Bruce Lipton, Dr. David Hawking. Cool. Thank you, Lionel, for sharing. Let's see if I can find... What if you're pregnant? If you're pregnant, I believe you should be living the lifestyle more conducive for health, which is 2 meals a day. 2 good-sized meals, but still giving your body that time to detox. And the last 2-3 webinars I've done, I've really focused on the cycles of the body, being in detoxification in the morning, going into appropriation, and then going into assimilation. So that's the optimal lifestyle to build a beautiful, healthy baby. Eat avocados, eat nuts and seeds, eat a variety of foods, follow your cravings as well to a degree to satiate yourself. But I believe you should have, eat between noon and about 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and that's it. And beyond that, you could have water, you could have juices, different things if you're hungry, or maybe snack on little bits of fruit. But yeah, still following that. But I would not recommend at all doing an extended fast. Never do a water fast or a juice fast while you're pregnant, or breastfeeding, because you need those nutrients, in my opinion, at this current state. We need to have that caloric intake to supply those things. Do you offer extended fasts? Yes, I do. I have a 30-day program called Heal Thyself here in Bali. It's a world-class program. In my opinion, it's the most amazing program that's ever been designed. I've designed the program specifically of what I would want to heal myself, but it's designed for basically getting to know thyself, but it's also designed for people who are dealing with chronic conditions. So people with, I've had people with brain tumors, lung cancer, colon, liver cancer, diabetes, Lyme disease, you name it, people with conditions have come for that healing. It's in, the accommodation is absolutely 5-star, the best accommodation on the planet, because when you're fasting, you need a really comfortable place to live in. It's right on the beach, and we fly people from around the world to facilitate all kinds of different things emotionally, mentally, energetically, physically. It's really a phenomenal program. And you could talk to anybody who's ever come, and they'll tell you it's definitely worth it. And if you want to know some of those people, I could definitely put you in touch. I think there's a few of them on the webinar today. So yes, I do offer those programs. Shelley Jackson, and thank you for asking. That was Matsi Musefi. Hopefully I didn't hack that name. Tyler, this week I've had a total clean detox diet. Day 1, I had a headache that had me vomiting. Day 4, I thought I was having a heart attack. Had an ECG and blood test, heart fine, blood pressure fine, blood fine, told it was muscle spasms. Could all this be due to detox? Of course it is. I want to be as healthy as possible, but this week has been ugly. Well, Shelley, this is just a clear sign that your body's throwing off a massive amount of waste and toxicity. And this is why I talk about, depending on where you're at, you might want to take just the first step, which might be a solid week of just fresh, organic foods. Eat fruit most of the day, or have a smoothie and then have a big salad at night, and just eat raw foods for 1 week. That alone will start to detox, and all the fibers will start to clean out your digestive system. I typically recommend doing my colon cleanse, which has bentonite clay and certain seeds and things that pull herbicides and pesticides, heavy metals, and other toxins out of the body. Because when you go into the fast, those are the toxins that start to leave the cells and circulate within the system, which is why you need to follow my protocols as well of really hydrating yourself, going for long walks, doing stretching. Some form of yoga also helps squeeze the organs and detox. Breathing exercises, skin cleaning, getting out in the sun, sweating, getting into a sauna, supporting the 4 channels of elimination, doing enemas, hydrating enough to urinate and poo a lot, sweating and breathing. These are the best ways. And if you do the things that I teach, like on my online juice fast or at my programs, you'll feel 10 times better than what you're feeling just doing it on your own without doing these basic things. So maybe take it to the level of raw foods and see how you go. And you can always back off. If you're doing just completely like fresh fruit, for example, and you're getting really sick, you could back off and have a little bit of, vegetables or a little bit of like warm soup, and that will actually slow the process of detoxification. Then you can go back in and do it again, and the more you detoxify slowly, the more comfortable it is. But you're not going to die. If you go straight into a juice fast or a water fast, nearly everybody can do at least 3 to 5 or even 10 days, as long as you're doing some enemas and cleaning your body. And there's plenty of people who don't do enemas and don't do that stuff that still have an amazing experience. But if you do those things, it'll be a lot easier. So take it a step at a time. Go to raw foods, then try a juice fast. Do a colon cleanse, then try a juice fast. And then maybe do a water fast after you've done a couple of shorter juice fasts. The water fast is really, when you do a water fast, you really need to create the environment that you don't have to work, you're not stressed out, you don't have your wife and your dog and your kids yelling and screaming at you to do things. You really need to create a pristine environment to do a water fast. And that's why juice fasting is so profound, because a lot of people can do a juice fast and still go to work and still do everything that they're doing because they're receiving that energy from the whole foods just in the form of juice. Erica said 7-day juice fast is awesome. Thank you for sharing. Hey, I have redness around my nose and cheeks a little. How can I go about healing this? What kinds of fasts can I perform? What kind of practices should I do? Your cheeks represent your stomach. Your nose is more getting into the digestive system if it's by the nose. And if it's actually on the nose, that has to do with your circulatory system and the heart. What I believe is going on is that you're having digestive issues. Your stomach is not happy with what you're eating. It needs to be healed. And your digestive system is inflamed and backed up. So what I personally would recommend is doing intermittent fasting first, eating either having a smoothie or some fresh, fruits, whole foods, chia seed pudding with some fruit, whatever, for lunch, and then having like a big salad, soup and salad type of thing for dinner, and maybe living that for a week or two and seeing how you progress. And just that will be really profound. And if you're not eliminating in the morning, again, I recommend walking, a liter of water first thing every morning, going for a walk, getting your digestive system to move. If it's not, I'd recommend doing an enema each morning just to start to clear the bowels, because it's obvious that's what's inflamed as well. Then what I would recommend is after you've done this for a couple of weeks, you can do a colon cleanse and then do 7 days on juices. And that will be one of the most profound things that you do if you follow it in that order. Some people just jump right into a colon cleanse and then do a juice fast, which is fantastic. But the colon cleanse will work better if you've already been doing some form of, healthier types of foods. And if you're already eating a lot of high fiber, a lot of plant-based stuff, then you could just jump right into a colon cleanse. But if you're eating meat, especially animal products, I would recommend a couple weeks of vegetarianism, high plant-based, intermittent fasting, just to get that fiber to clear out a lot of that waste. And then again, colon cleanse, 7-day fast. And a lot of times after the 7-day fast, you've loosened up a lot of that stuff. If you do a colon cleanse again, it'll work like 10 times better, and you'll probably see, parasites and plaque and all kinds of stuff come out. And, when I say that, a lot of people get that, and a lot of people don't until they've done this 2 or 3 or even 4 times. And, if you follow my Facebook page, you can follow Tyler Tolman Facebook page, get on the online juice fast, thousands and thousands of people that have been through this, supporting each other. You'll see all the people that are, posting photos of parasites and other things coming out of their body. But a lot of times it's, a year or even 2 years after they've started this whole process of doing all this stuff. So you got to understand, 7 years of 10, 20 years, 30 years of doing all this stuff to our body, it's going to take some time. But even in these short little fasts, there's a profound level of things that are taking place. So look, I know I've taken over an hour. I usually just shut off here. What I want to do right now, hopefully I'm just going to see if I still have most of you. Yep, most of you are still on here. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to give away the Heal Thyself at Home to one person. And what I'm going to do is say the first person to type, "I love this webinar" in the questions is going to get it. First person to type, "I love this webinar" in the question is going to win the Heal Thyself at Home. I love this webinar, Rebecca White. Man, you're quick. Lightning fast, Rebecca White. Second place, Kylie Cools, Lisa, Goro, Cynthia, Shirley, Christine, Yolanda, Stefan, Caitlin, Craig, Angelo, Erica, Dee, Lisa, Nicole, Dion. Sorry, guys. Rebecca White was on top of that. I'm just going to take a photo of this. If you guys need any photo evidence, I'm not fudging the numbers here. I can post the photo, and congratulations, Rebecca. You've just won yourself the 13-week Heal Thyself at Home. You'll be able to get into that system. I do Q&A every week. Yeah, that's awesome. She's typed, woohoo! No photo evidence needed. We trust you. Thank you, Christine Dicker. Love you. So anyways, I want to thank you guys so much for being on this webinar. Please, if you like this information, if you love this information, share it with your friends. Don't be afraid. You'd be surprised. People will actually be more open than what you know to this kind of information. At least you'll be triggering and planting seeds for the future, because if you can get your friends on board, it makes it so much easier. Friends and family, when they're doing this stuff as well, it's so much easier to do it. Do a fast together, do a colon cleanse together, go out and buy juices, go get a salad together, start getting into this healthy lifestyle so that we can change ourselves, change our family, change the planet. You know I love you. I'll see you next week. I look highly forward to it. This is Tyler Tolman, signing off.